All right, well, we'll get started. People will continue to filter in, but I want to be mindful of those who have joined here on time, and we've got lots of great information to share with you. So, welcome everyone. This is our second NRQ information and learning session. We had one on Tuesday as well. We really appreciate you guys taking the time to join us today after lunch and learn a bit more about the NRQ process. So, just a reminder, mics have been turned off for this session. And in answer to Julie's question, the session will be recorded and made available online after the session concludes this afternoon. And there's no expectation to have your cameras on for the session today, so that's up to you guys. And anybody needing closed captioning for this session, you can turn this on. If you just click at the top of the meeting, there's a more button with 3 ellipses symbol. You click on that and then go under settings, and then under accessibility. And that is where you can turn on closed captioning if you need it. So before we kick off and dive into the NRQ information, I just wanted to go over a couple housekeeping items. We have Muhammad Ahmad from our team here at Procurement Strategy and Governance. He's assisting us with troubleshooting today. So if anyone's having any issues seeing the screen share, issues with audio, or if you get kicked out of the session for whatever reason, please reach out to him via email or Teams. He'll be happy to assist you with any issues that might come up. And in a moment, I'm going to put his contact information into the chat so that you'll have it there. Thanks so much for your help, Muhammad. While we go through the session today, we're going to have a few interactive polls that we will put up on the screen, and we will also be sharing a short video demo of the NRQ template. And Muhammad has put a troubleshooting document into the chat just now. It's called Headset Audio Support, and that's just a document if anybody is having any issues hearing the audio when the video is being shared. You can just look at that and it gives some tips that could help out. And I think we're ready to get started. So I would like to pass it over to my manager, Britt Swoveland, the project director for career planning and capability development here within Procurement Strategy and Governance branch. She's going to kick us off. So please take it away, Britt.
Great. Thanks so much, George. It's really nice to meet you all. I have to say, 201 of you on the line so far, and I'm so impressed because we had an equally large session on Tuesday and I think even more today. So that tells me, A, that you're really interested. There's a lot of demand for this, and we are providing an option that allows people to join in from across the province to get this kind of information. So thank you so much for joining us. We have you here for an hour today, and we're going to put as much information into your heads as we possibly can, knowing that all of this is going to be made available to you, and we are going to send out a follow-up email that includes links. So not to worry. If you're like me, you're always wondering, am I going to get access to this as we're going through it? So yes, you are. And just sit back and enjoy the next hour. So I'm joining you today from the Lekwungen Traditional Territories, also known as the Esquimalt and Songhees First Nations, and express my sincere gratitude to be able to live, work, and play on these lands. I've lived here for 30 years. It really is my home. I'm so grateful to be here and would love it if you put in the chat where you're coming from, if you'd like. Gives us a sense for who's joining in, where you're coming from, and the representation that we have on the line. Our agenda for the next hour, we're going to take you through a little bit of the learning outcomes for this next hour, things that we want to really make sure that you walk away with. And then we do have a guest speaker here today, someone that has been championing this work for some time now and has learned quite a bit about what are the kinds of things people are asking. So we're going to spend some time in that space. We have a template demo, a video, as George mentioned. We're going to walk through some questions that have come into us that we know people so far are asking. And we do have pop quizzes. So this is where we're going to check back in with you and see how this information is landing. Then we'll do a bit of a session wrap up, which is going to include showing you where these resources are all located. We're really aiming to set things up here in the division so that people can self-serve and get the information that they need when they need it in their job. some final important words, and then a final poll. So we've got people from Invermere, Prince George, Cranbrook, Esquimalt, Casgar, Mill Bay, Vancouver, all across the province. So welcome. It's great for you to join us. So I'm going to ask you a question, and you can just use the thumbs up emoji. And the first question is, how many of you complete low dollar value procurements monthly? Okay. Yeah, so quite a few of you. That's great. How many of you complete low dollar value procurements a few times a year? Yeah, so probably the majority of folks maybe fitting into that category. And then the last question is, how many of you are diving in, maybe brand new, and you'll be taking on your first solicitation? Okay, great. So we have a spectrum of people joining us today. The good news is that you are all in the right spot, whether you do procurements often, monthly, if you're only doing them a few times a year, or this is brand new for you. You are in the right spot, and this is going to be information that you're going to find very useful. So our learning outcomes for this session, we're hoping that by the time we wrap up, you'll know what important information must be included in the NRQ template, the non-binding request for quote. You'll be familiar with the location of these resources. You'll have information on where to send your questions. And you're going to learn about what are some of the common questions that we've been hearing from people. This has gone through a bit of a trial, and it is being used gently out there. And so we've been able to gather some questions that we really want to share with you today. So we'll be doing that as well. We want you to know that we understand folks are going to have more questions, and the more that we get the template in use, the more questions are going to come in. So we're going to be asking people to send those questions into a specific email, and we're going to be providing that to you. So the NRQ, what is this? If you didn't get a chance to watch the video and you haven't looked at the resources yet, or you haven't used it, this is a new corporate template. It's for ministry buyers, and it provides a more flexible, faster, and non-binding process for low dollar value purchases of goods and services. When you use this process, the quote, including all your costs, fees, and expenses, and any recurring, expenses that happen again, must be less than 10,000 for goods and 75 for services. And there's many benefits. It's non-binding, and don't worry, we'll talk a little bit more about what that is. It's flexible, it requires no formal evaluation process, so that's new, and it permits any aspect of the contract to be negotiated before it's signed. And of course, it aligns with our BC government's procurement strategy, which is putting tools in place that allow us to work more efficiently and effectively with our vendor community. As we go along today, our guest speaker is likely going to be mentioning a few key documents. And so we wanted to put that into the presentation, which you will be getting access to, and just mention it here. And we'll put those links in the chat. And so the three documents that will be referenced a few times is the Procurement Practice Standard, the Core Policies and Procedures Manual, and what we have developed as the NRQ guidance document. So those are there and available and in the chat for you to grab. And I would say if you're new to procurement, these are really good reference documents to be bookmarking. You'll probably go back to them time and time again.
Exactly. Thank you, Brett. So I've just popped those in the chat now. The first one is the Procurement Practice Standard, then Core Policies and Procedures. The third is our guidance document, which Brett will demo for us a bit later in this session. And I also just put the link in for the NRQ training materials because Brett will be showing us where those are located. And so this link is in here if you want to follow along.
All right, so we have a little pre-assessment for our audience here, and we're curious. When we sent out the email, the registration email, we also encouraged folks to take a look at the video, and this was a 15-minute video where our guest speaker today, Imran Saheed, walked you through the NRQ template. And so George is going to bring that up right now, and we're going to have a little poll.
Absolutely. Thanks, Brett. I'll just launch that now. It should pop up on your screens. So we're just wanting to know about that video. It was in the meeting registration to watch it. Perhaps some of you had a chance to, maybe you plan to watch it later. We just wanted to kind of see how you made out with that video. See the responses are coming in. That's great. Thank you. Just leave it open a moment longer here. So it's looking like majority of the responses, either you have already watched it or you plan to watch it later. A couple of people have skimmed it. Some people didn't know about the video. That's totally fine. When we launched this NRQ template with the learning package, we put out a variety of different ways for you to learn. So there are videos. There's also a guidance document we will look at. And then we have these live sessions too, because different learning methods work for different people. And I would recommend watching it, though. It's great and very informative video that's been put together by our guest speaker, Imran. So thanks for answering that for us. I'm going to close it now, and I'll pass it back over to you, Brett.
Great. Thanks, George. So now we get to welcome our guest speaker, and we're super pleased to have Imran Saeed with us today. Imran is the Senior Director of Procurement with the Procurement Services Branch, and he is the project owner and a champion for the NRQ, and he's been really instrumental in its development and launch. So welcome, Imran, and thanks for joining us today.
Thank you, Britt.
So I know that we recently launched this new template, but can you give me just a little bit of a background, the history of the work that we did?
Sure. The NRQ project was born about 2 years ago, and the main reason was that it was identified that the three-court process that was being utilized in many different ways inconsistently across the province. And there were either sometimes no terms and conditions being attached to this process, or the terms and conditions that were being used were specific to binding procurements. So this created a risk for the buying entity. Thus, the NRQ was born, and we piloted it for about 2 years. The reason it took too long is because we wanted to include as many ministries as possible in the pilot, but not everyone was buying things that met the dollar value range for the NRQ. So we took our time. We wanted to make sure that there are no issues that could pop up later. Once we had enough data and province-wide acceptance and the pilot ended very successfully, we decided to convert this into a corporate provincial template and process. And here we are today. Back to you.
Great. Yeah, that's great. And I know it's so nice when you can say that you've piloted it, you've tried it out, and you learn so much in that process. And so here we are now at a place where we can now put it out corporately. I just wanted to take a moment at this time to also recognize that Imran worked very closely with the Legal Services Branch, and they were key partners in the development of this work. So big thanks to LSB for their participation and guidance in the work here. Okay, so George, do you want to introduce the video that we're going to sort of ground ourselves in? So people that are stepping in brand new, you didn't get a chance to watch the 15-minute video. This is going to give you a sense for what is this magical NRQ. And this is, I'll pass it to you, George.
Thanks, Brett. Yeah, this is a video that we put together for the launch of the NRQ template, and it's a video that will show the actual template on the screen, and I just walk us through each of the sections of the template so it's very clear what you need to fill out and where. And this video that I'm showing you now is also available on the NRQ training page that we will show you later. So You'll be able to go back and watch this if you need to. I'll just start the video now. Again, if you're having any audio issues, just reach out to Muhammad, and there's also a troubleshooting document just at the beginning of the chat. This is the NRQ template. You would fill out and send one of these templates to each of the suppliers that you are engaging when running your NRQ. Throughout the template, you will see these pink instructions that will walk you through everything you need to fill out in each section of the template. These instructions are to be deleted prior to sending out the final template to each supplier. All that will be left are the relevant details for the supplier. Do ensure that you have included the correct supplier's name and email address in the template, and that it matches the supplier that you are sending the template to. One copy of the template is meant to be sent to one supplier at a time, and each supplier will get their own separate NRQ template. In each section of the template, you will find text boxes, drop-downs, or calendar widgets, and you can fill in the relevant information in each section as requested. Initially, you will want to fill in an issue date, assign your own NRQ ID number for tracking purposes, include an NRQ title, and then enter the supplier's name and email address. You can select the ministry the NRQ is originating from and the quote submission date for your suppliers. There are some important sections throughout the template with required legal information pertaining to the NRQ process. These sections, as well as the template in its entirety, are not to be altered in any way. In Section A, you can include information for the supplier about the relevant dates and duration of the goods and services being procured. In this next section, Section B, you can include more details about what information you want included in each supplier's quote. Within Section B, there is an additional information subsection, subsection 5 or V, where you can include more free-form text directions for the suppliers. The pink instructions here give you examples of what this might look like. In Section C, ensure that you include your contact name and email address so the suppliers can get back to you. In Section D, the NRQ terms and conditions are also included directly in the template, which provides clarity to the supplier about the NRQ process. These are important guidelines for the NRQ and should all be followed as written and help clarify any questions suppliers may have about each party's responsibilities when it comes to participating in an NRQ process. Lastly, as you reach the end of the NRQ template, there is a section called Appendix A, Requirements/Scope of Services. In this section, there is a free-form text box where you can include any and all information about the scope of services needed for this procurement. Feel free to be as detailed as possible here, while also knowing that you can continue negotiations with your selected supplier before the final contract is signed. Should you encounter any issues with the NRQ form or have any questions, please email procurementadvisory@gov.bc.ca. Thank you.
Great. And that was our very own George Van Heest narrating there. And thank you for the work that you did putting that together, George. So that email that we showed and the one that's here right now, as we go along and we enter into this section now where we're having Imran talk about some of these common questions, if this is triggering more questions for you, please write those down and send them into procurement advisory. That's where you're going to get the best and most accurate information and answers to those questions. Just put in the subject line the NRQ and they'll get to the right place. So Imran, we're going to dive in now. I know that you've selected what you think are going to be some of the best questions for us to share with this group of individuals. And I'm going to get George to move us to the next slide. Okay, so question 1, are there any policies or procedures to follow when using the NRQ?
Thank you, Britt. So yes, absolutely. The Core Policies and Procedures Manual, Chapter 6, written specifically for procurement, has to be followed. It is important that when you're procuring anything, you must also refer to the procurement practice standards in combination with the core policy. The link for this is in the reference information section located on the right side on the main webpage of the CPPM Chapter 6. Britt, if you can open the chat for me for 1 second, I can just post a link for it as well.
Okay, great. Is that okay to do that, George? Are you able to do that? Yeah, okay, perfect.
Absolutely.
Yeah, so we'll make sure that we get you those links and of course, Core Policy Procedures Manual, chapter number 6. You will become well acquainted with it. If you're new to the world of procurement, a lot of the information you need is in that chapter. All right, question 2. Do I fill out one NRQ template and then send it to all the suppliers all at once?
So yes, since currently only email method is being used for sending out the NRQ to suppliers, it is important from a records management perspective that one template is filled out for each supplier and a separate email is sent for each supplier. The steps are outlined in the guidance document and they should be followed.
Right, okay. That sounds like a pretty easy response to that one. Question 3, can the NRQ be used to purchase a combination of goods and services? And can you talk a little bit about the thresholds that apply?
Thank you. Yes, the NRQ can be used to purchase a combination of goods and services. The threshold associated with the largest portion of the procurement should be used. For reference, please see the estimating the value of an opportunity within the procurement practice standard. Provided that the estimated procurement value is below the applicable threshold, the NRQ can be used. So the link for the procurement practice standard, I just posted in the chat. This is also available on the main website, main web page of the CPPM Chapter 6.
Right. Yeah, great. And I know we've got those links in previous slides as well. So not to worry, folks, you will get access to that information. It's all embedded in there. Question 4, should I post NRQ solicitations to BC Bid? Because we put a lot of stuff on BC Bid.
Yeah. So no, the answer is no for this one. The NRQs can only be done using the described email method. Please do refer to the guidance documents. Not to say this may not change in the future, but for now, please only use the procedure described in the guidance document.
Right. And when you say, and just to clarify, when you say the email method, you're just referring to sending an email to a supplier.
Exactly, yes.
Great. Okay, question 5. Is the province obligated to purchase the goods or services after it receives quotes as part of the process?
No, the answer for this is no. The NRQ is a non-binding solicitation process. So the province is not obligated to accept any quotes and can choose not to proceed with a contract. Either party may choose not to proceed at any time prior to executing the contract.
Right. So then once you do move to signing, though, that changes things. Okay. Second part to that question is, does the supplier have to enter into a contract to supply the goods and services?
Yes. So the supplier, a contract has to be signed by both parties for the supply of the goods and or services.
Right. So you've completed the NRQ in terms of filled that out, and then you move to a contract. Question 6, I'm considering the form of contract that I need to use with my NRQ. Can I use the General Services Agreement, a corporate contract template, to purchase goods?
No, the General Services Agreement is designed for services. If a contract is required for goods, the ministry buyer should contact Procurement Services Branch or to obtain a form of contract, or contact their legal services branch solicitor when planning the NRQ.
Right. So there's a few folks that they might reach out to just to determine for sure what they need to do. So what happens if the province receives a quote from a supplier that is late? Because sometimes this is something we need to think about, is like due dates. Can the province still consider it?
So you will notice on the template that there are no drop dead deadlines. It is really up to you. So as noted in the guidance document, the province may disregard late quotes. And you can see the section 10 in part D of the NRQ template, which has the terms and conditions, which contains the following language. Quotes received by the ministry after the quote submission date may be disregarded.
So it's really a personal determination of what you decide to do. The NRQ does not have any place to insert points and weightings for evaluating vendors. So where would somebody put this information?
So points and weightings for evaluated criteria should not be included anywhere in the NRQ. The evaluation does not require a formal allocation of points, nor does it require any consensus evaluation. For details on what you can do and how to do the evaluation, you can refer to the guidance document.
Okay, great. So a bit more flexibility there. Okay, the next question. Can the NRQ be used to purchase software as a service?
So the short answer is yes, but there are conditions. You need to ensure that multiple NRQs are not being issued in the same ministry or elsewhere in the province to procure the same services. You also need to make sure that you have taken into account all the annual recurring costs. Please refer to the guidance documents for more clarification, as you will find the information there.
All right, thanks, Imran. I've got, I think, 4 more questions here. Can the NRQ be used to purchase construction-related goods and services?
So let's dive into this a bit. Let's first see what the construction services mean. So the New West Partnership Trade Agreement states that the term construction means a construction, reconstruction, demolition, repair, or renovation of the building, structure, or civil engineering or architectural work, and includes site preparation, excavation, drilling, seismic investigation, the supply of products and materials, the supply of equipment and machinery, if they are included in and incidental to the construction, and the installation and repair of fixtures of a building, structures, or civil engineering or architectural work, but does not include professional consulting services related to the construction contract unless they are included in the procurement. So if the goods or services you're going to procure fall under the definition which I just explained of construction, then the NRQ is not to be used. However, in addition to the above definition, please refer to the 3rd bullet point in the section estimating the value of an opportunity in the procurement practice standards, where it specifically states this. Any goods or services purchased outside the scope of a construction project would not be considered construction and would be subject to the thresholds applicable to goods or services. In this scenario, you can use the NRQ if the value of the procurement is within the NRQ boundaries for services and or goods.
Right. Wow. And folks, that's quite a lot of information. So good thing we're recording this. You're going to have be able to play that back. And it sounds like the definition of construction is really key here to making that determination.
And of course, if you've got very specific situations, it is recommended that you seek legal advice from your ministry solicitor.
Right. Yes. So that's where, that LSP comes in so handy when you're really just not sure. There's always counsel to go to. All right. So moving along here. Thanks for that, Imran. Question number 12. Oh, no, question number 11. Sorry. Can information related to an NRQ be requested under the Freedom of Information and Protection of Privacy Act?
Yes, this information can be requested. The province, where required pursuant to FOIPA, would release the information in response to this request.
Great. Okay, so save your information, save your files, keep that all the work that you do during that procurement, so because it could be requested. Question number 12. If the estimated value of the procurement exceeds the services posting threshold, can I divide this over multiple NRQs? Can I then award the contracts to the same supplier?
No, that is not consistent with the trade agreement rules, which requires ministry buyers not to circumvent their obligation under the trade agreements. Procurements cannot be split into multiple procurements to avoid the buyer obligations to publicly post opportunities that meet or exceed the applicable posting thresholds. So you can also see the policy number 31 of the Core Policy and Procedures Manual, Chapter 6.
All right, question 13. Can I use a purchase order template with the NRQ?
So after having discussions with LSP, I have a new answer for this. The short answer is yes. If and only if the general terms and conditions associated with the purchase order are acceptable with the supplier. If not, then you will need to seek legal advice from your ministry solicitor, and a custom contract will need to be drafted.
Okay, well, that's great. Thanks for checking in and for that little change there to this question. We're learning as we go along here. Does the NRQ replace the 3-quote process? So getting 3 different quotes from suppliers, or can I still use it?
One of the main reasons the NRQ was developed was to replace the 3-quote process, which was being used inconsistently across the province. Now that the NRQ is a corporate template and process, you should use this as the only way to procure goods and services for which the NRQ has been developed. And for that, you must follow the steps provided in the guidance document.
Right. Okay. Well, that's good to know. I'm not sure if we have any more questions right now, or if that was, I think that was our last one. And I know that was a lot of information. It's all in the recording, and a lot of the details that you need you're going to find in those 3 reference documents that we provided to you. And of course, you can send in your questions to procurementadvisory@gov.bc.ca. All right, so we do have a quiz for you, and we're going to see what you remember, and I'm going to pass it on over to George.
Thanks, Britt. All right, I'm going to launch this as well. It'll pop up on the screen, just like our previous poll. Just 5 questions in the quiz. We'll see what you're able to pick up from the Q&A that we just went through. So you've just launched that now. The first question has come up on the screen, but you will notice in the bottom right-hand corner, it says 1 of 5. You can just click through those arrows to navigate to each of the 5 questions. So I'll just give you a few minutes here to go through and answer these. We'll see how you do, and then we can go over the answers together.
It's looking good here. Lots of people responding.
Lots of answers are coming in. That's great. We'll go over this in just a moment here. All right, so see how we made out. First question was, the NRQ is used primarily for what? Options are construction, goods and services, or goods, services, and construction. So the answer here is goods and services. This NRQ template has been developed primarily for goods and services related procurements that are below trade thresholds. As Imran mentioned in the Q&A, there are very slim instances where the NRQ may be used for construction, but it is a specific scenario where that falls outside of the definition of construction he mentioned, and you would probably want to check with PSB or LSB legal before entering into those, as he mentioned. Next question, what is the dollar value threshold for goods? 10,000, 75,000, 15,000, or 5,000? Majority of you guys selected 10,000, and that is correct. Per the trade law, the dollar value threshold is 10,000. So if it is below that, you can use the new NRQ template. Third question, what is the dollar value threshold for services? Again, 10,000, 75,000, 100,000, or 50,000. For services specifically, the answer is 75,000. Again, based on trade law, if you are below this services threshold of 75,000, you can use the NRQ template. It's what it's been designed for. Fourth question, FOIPA, or Freedom of Information and Protection of Privacy Act, does not apply to the NRQ. True or false? The answer here is false. It does apply, and Imran went over that in the Q&A moments ago. So everything that you do with regard to the NRQ template using that process, your notes, the templates you send out to your suppliers, and subsequent work is all subject to FOIPA. So keep that in mind and document well as you're going through this process. And lastly, what resource provides you with information on the policies and procedures that must be followed when using the NRQ? This is an overwhelming 98% response, so Core Policies and Procedures Manual is the answer there. We did put the link to that in the chat earlier in the session, so it's there for you. And yes, you'll want to be consulting this each time you do an NRQ because it is your friend and has all the policies that we need in there. Great work, everyone. I'll just close that. Thanks for your responses.
Yeah, thanks, George. And thanks for your engagement there and for participating in the poll. So we're heading into the final bits of our quick 1 hour together. And I'm going to take you to the BC Procurement Resources website. That link is included in this power presentation that you'll have access to. And I'm also going to take you there right now. I'm just going to share my screen. And also just wanted to take the opportunity right now to say thank you to all the folks that were involved in the development of the website content and putting it together, our marketing communications team, and any of the folks that were involved in the background work of putting this together. So you'll see the breadcrumb trail there for folks who are new into this area. It's called BC Procurement Resources. You can Google it, it will come up. And it's pretty straightforward in terms of where you're going to want to go, buy for government and procurement training resources. This is where we've housed the guidance document and some of our activities and the videos as well. You're also going to find, I'm just going to scroll quickly to the bottom, the recordings. So Tuesday's recording is here and today's recording will be uploaded as well. Let's take a look at the guidance document for the NRQ. It was mentioned several times today. So what's in the table of contents here? You're going to find everything about what this is, how to use it, when to use it, where to get the template, frequently asked questions. So much of what we talked today you will find in here as well. But we've also generated some case studies. And the case studies is where this is going to get you to think critically about certain situations and then apply your best judgment in making decisions about what is the next steps, what should you do. And of course, the answers are provided as well, but this is there for you to do as an individual. You could also do it as a team if you have several of you in the branch, come together, work on these case studies. Those are all located in here. We also have an individual activity, and that includes actually filling out one of the templates. And so if we close this, the blank template is located here, and we also have the answer key for you. Imran's 15-minute video is located here. Everything is accessible in terms of meeting standards. You can download a transcript and have closed captioning, and the 4-minute demo of the template is here as well. So this is your sort of one-stop shop, if you will, for accessing resources and the training materials. And when we send out the follow-up email, the link will be provided in that to access this page. Right, I'm going to stop sharing my screen.
I'll just get our PowerPoint back up here. Thanks for that demo, Britt. So that page that Britt just took us through was one of the links that I put in the chat at the beginning. It was the 4th link in my series there, so feel free to check that out if you haven't already. And now we've got some summaries and takeaways that I'm just going to get you to go through, Imran, if you don't mind.
Sure. So NRQ is a new corporate solicitation template. Please feel free to ask questions if you want to use the template. You can always reach us at procurementadvisory.gov.bc.ca. The NRQ is going to be used for goods which are under $10,000 in total, and services in aggregate below $75,000. I just want to mention that these values do not include the taxes.
It's good to know.
As usual, please try to use the corporate supply arrangements first. Try to see if there are any multi-use lists available that should be consulted first before deciding to use the NRQ. Of course, as I mentioned in the first question that was asked, the Core Policies and Procedures Manual, Chapter 6, does apply to the NRQ. Yeah, so all the self-serve learning activities, resources, they are all located on the BC Procurement Resources website. And finally, yes, this is the email address where you can reach us if you have any questions, queries about the template, the process, or anything else related to the NRQ.
Thanks, Imran. So before we send you on your way, we have one final poll that I'm just going to launch here for us. And this is more for Britt and myself to get some information from you just about how this session went, and if you would be interested in additional sessions like this, live information sessions for subsequent things that are launched within the field of procurement. So I'll just put that poll up now. If you wouldn't mind taking a moment just to answer that, it just helps give us some data about future things that we develop within procurement learning. See lots of responses are coming in. Thank you guys, really appreciate this data. It helps us out as we develop future learning sessions, and it's looking great. About 95% saying yes, you'd like to see things like this in the future. That really helps us, because as we go and develop new learnings within the field of procurement, it's good to know that these types of sessions are helpful for individuals. So thanks for that feedback. I'll just close this off here and pass it back to you, Britt.
Yeah, thanks very much, everyone. So our time has come to an end. I think we have been able to provide you with the information that we really wanted to make sure that you have, which is what are some of the key takeaways that are really important for you to be thinking about? Where's the information located? And making sure you have access to that, making sure that you know where you can send your questions to, and knowing that there's some learning resources there for you to access, so you can just dive a little bit deeper. Maybe if you're feeling uncertain about starting your first NRQ process, trialing through the learning activities is a really great way to do that. So we're going to send out just a quick thank you email that's going to show up in your email, and part of that will include an evaluation. Super quick, it's max 5 minutes. If you have any constructive thoughts, feedback that you'd like to share with us, we're wide open to receiving those. And just want to say a big thanks to Imran for your knowledge, your expertise, and for your determination in getting this out the door and being used corporately. And really want to say thanks to George for being the technical support and for doing such a great job on some of the learning materials and resources that you created, and to all our partners who were involved in this. And thank you, Mohammed, for being at the ready for the technology. And thanks to all of you, and good luck with using this new template. Really curious to hear how it goes for you, and stay warm in the deep freeze.
Absolutely. Thanks so much, Britt. Thank you, Imran, Mohammed, and everyone for joining. We'll give you some time back in your day. Just as we mentioned at the beginning of this, these sessions are recorded, one from Tuesday and today's. I'll be putting this video up on the NRQ training page a little later this afternoon. So anybody who wasn't able to attend this week, either of the sessions, please feel free to just direct your colleagues to that page and they'll be able to follow along with these sessions. All right. Stay safe out there and take care, everyone. Have a great day. Bye.
Bye for now.
Right.